What's up, YouTube? I'm back. This is your boy Alex. It is hot outside. This is Thursday, my last day off from work. I had 3 days off from work. You won't be seeing no YouTube videos on my YouTube channels for the next 3 to 4 days. That's 3 to 4 days of work that you won't be seeing no YouTube videos. The reason is because I cannot film inside none of the theme parks that I work at. Administrator or a manager walks by and sees that, or my boss see that, two things will happen. Most of the time, they'll just confiscate your cell phone and you can't film for a long time. Or in the worst case scenario, they just fire you. So can't be doing no filmmaking inside or outside the theme park. Even if I went 5 or 6 blocks up the street, still couldn't film. So the thing is, I would have to go very far out of the area, and even if I was to still do that, you know how the Anaheim police gets when they see people filming? Same thing with the Orange County. They see you filming, it's a wrap. So even if I could film, it would have to be early in the morning where I'm still here in LA where I could actually pull that off. And I do like I do when I was at my other job at the Grove, which is I would film 3 hours in advance so it never affect my work. So the video would be already uploaded 2 or 3 hours in advance before I even got to work. Sometimes if I had a good day, I would film a video 4 hours in advance, so it would never affect my workflow. Now, this is going to be the Super Bowl prediction. Kansas City Chiefs versus the San Francisco 49ers. This is a very interesting football game, because Kansas City Chiefs hasn't gone to a Super Bowl in a while. The last time they went to a Super Bowl, I don't even think I was even born yet. And when I was born, they would make it to the playoffs, but they never got to this level before. Like I said, they've gone to a Super Bowl 2 or 3 times in the past, but that was before I was even born. And when I was a kid, I always saw them always lose in the playoffs. So congratulations to the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, this is going to be one of those matchups where it's offense versus offense, defense versus defense. Now, let's go with the Kansas City Chiefs on why they could win a Super Bowl or why they may lose a Super Bowl. Let's start with the why they could. They're bigger, they're stronger, they're faster, they can play all 4 quarters. They can play any style. It don't matter if it's overtime, double overtime. You play fast, they can play fast. You play slow, they can play slow. You want to run the clock out, they'll run the clock out. They can win the game by a touchdown or by a field goal. And you see, they won their games on the road. Most of the football games, they won on the road. They can win on the road and they can win at home. And nothing affects them unless they're going against a team that they have trouble beating. They beat the Patriots during the season. Nobody expect them to beat the Patriots. They did play against teams like New Orleans. They play against teams like the Rams. They played against teams like the Green Bay Packers, and they're battle tested. Most football teams, when they go to a Super Bowl, they're not battle tested. So the thing is, you could win all your games in the season and beat people in the playoffs, but when it comes to the Super Bowl, that's where you're supposed to perform a Super Bowl performance. So the only way I could see Kansas City Chiefs actually lose the Super Bowl is if they have a collapse in the Super Bowl. Because some teams, they get happy that they made it to the Super Bowl, and then when they're in the Super Bowl and it's for the championship, they usually choke. They usually get cold feet. They usually shut down. All of a sudden, offense gets shut down. Defense collapse. And all of a sudden, they don't know how to play. All of a sudden, they're confused. They don't know why they're here when they're losing the football game. Most teams have this habit where they get to a Super Bowl because they're just happy to get to a Super Bowl. And then when they lose, it's like, so that's what a Super Bowl feels like? But it's like you didn't win. So I think with Kansas City Chiefs, they've won championships in the past when they've gone to a Super Bowl. This is a completely new football team. They've got a good coach, a good defensive line. They got a running back. And they are a force to be reckoned with. Now, their style, I'm going to say their style could be like run and gun. They can run and gun. That would be their style. They can take a straitjacket out and put you in a straitjacket where you're going to go. Their defense will knock you out unconscious. Their offense all around solid. It don't matter if you go right, don't matter if you go left, you go up the middle. They can throw the football. You think you can trap them in the corner? They have options. They can call timeout and run the clock out and go for a touchdown or go for a field goal kick. It doesn't matter to Kansas. That Kansas will bring it. Kansas is not afraid of overtime. They're not afraid of the towing costs. Who wins the coin toss? I'm thinking this might favor San Francisco, but I could see Kansas take the coin toss. And you know the rules about championship games, right, people? 99.999% of the time, whoever wins the coin toss wins the championship. Think about it. In all sports, basketball, football, baseball, soccer, hockey, they always do a coin toss. Even in college basketball, college football, they take a quarter, they throw it up, and whoever wins that coin toss wins the championship 99.99%. There are only a few times in history where somebody doesn't win the coin cost. You throw it up and then they still win the champ. There's only a few times in history that actually happens. And Kansas seem like they have the making of being a new dynasty. I know it's too early to say that, but think about it. They have offense, they have defense, they have defensive line, they have offensive line, they have a coach, they have a running back, they have a quarterback, they have a wide receiver. They have all of their offensive weapons, all of their defensive weapons, and they've won all three games in a convincing fashion. It seems like they are the force of nature that you know that they're going to win the championship. Like they're expected to be the underdogs. Like everyone expects San Francisco to win the championship right off the back. So let's talk about why Kansas City Chiefs could lose the Super Bowl. If they lose the Super Bowl, it might be for two reasons. One, it might be it's your first time in the Super Bowl. Think about it. They haven't gone to a Super Bowl in almost 25, 30 years in their franchise. Now, they have won championships back in those late 70s, somewhere around in those 80s before this team, was great. They won championships in the past, but I wasn't born. We're talking about what have you done now? It's like that Janet Jackson song, What Have You Done For Me Lately? So, yeah, they ain't won a Super Bowl in a while. So that's the first thing. The second thing is some teams, when they get to a Super Bowl, they do good the first two quarters, but then you still got the third quarter. You still have the fourth quarter. And the same way you played the first and the second quarter is the same way you play the third and the fourth quarter. And if you don't play good the first two quarters, when you get to the third and the fourth quarter, you lose the Super Bowl. And if they get exposed, it would probably be because they're not used to the Super Bowl. Sometimes that could be the wide receiver. He might catch the football. This is where it's critical. This is where it makes or breaks your NFL football career. So if Kansas was lose, it would either be because the quarterback or the wide receiver is not used to being on this competitive level. This is what players wake up early in the morning and practice for every game for a season to the Super Bowl. This is going to be one of those make or break moments for this team. And that might be the only two reasons that could cause this team to lose. I think they're more hungry and more motivated than San Francisco. Now let's get to the San Francisco 49ers. This team has had to prove for the last 7 seasons that they're still the 49ers of legend. They have had to prove that they can still be that team that we saw in the 80s, that we saw in the 90s, and the early 2000s. This team has resurrected itself. This team has come back to greatness. They have beaten teams that no one anticipated. They beat the Green Bay Packers twice in the season and in the playoffs. They took on the Patriots, beat the Patriots. They went in there and dogged the Rams, beat the Dallas Cowboys, beat New Orleans. They've had 2 games in the season that went into overtime. They turn around and they played the Baltimore Ravens and had a shootout game. And all of those games tested the ability of the 49ers. The 49ers are like they're like their defense is kind of like the SWAT police team because they could just surround you on the right side or the left side of the football field and you won't know where to go. They can trap you inside of a circle. They can make you throw the football on the right and miss. They can make you misfire on the left. And sometimes they will force you to the right or the left and make you have a timeout when there ain't no timeouts. So are like a strategist football team. They will confuse you in the football game. And this is how they won all three football games. They every time somebody thought the 49ers was going to lose, they did the complete opposite. They won. They actually won 85% of their games. They won all three games in the playoffs leading up to the Super Bowl. And the fact that they're known as an offensive threat, now here's why they could win the Super Bowl. They're the 49ers. They're the favorites. They're expected to return back to greatness. They haven't won a championship in these 2000s for quite some time. It's 2020. And what better way to say I've returned back to greatness if you're a 49er team is to take the championship in 2020. It makes a big statement, hey, I'm back. That's what the 49ers want. I want to win a championship in 2020. Guess what? I'm back. Now, let's talk about if the 49ers were to lose the Super Bowl. See, here's the thing, and I'm going to say it again in the video. If you win Super Bowls, you know there's a period where you win them and then you don't win. They've won in the season, they won in the playoffs, and the same thing goes for them. Sometimes they get happy with just going to the playoffs, and they get happy when they get to a Super Bowl, but when you get into those moments, it's like, this is where you prove to the naysayers, the skeptics, the critics, that you are the guy that everyone says you are. You lose, then everything you did in the season just gets flushed down the toilet, and people will be wondering, is this just going to be a one-hit wonder? Is this good for one season? Can they do this a second time, a third time? So this is going to be expected of the 49ers, who is a dynasty team. They won championships in those 80s and those 90s and tried to do it in the 2000s. And a lot of people still can't get that picture out of their head when the last time the 49ers was picked to win a Super Bowl, who did they lose to in the Super Bowl? When you look at 2012, they lost to the Baltimore Ravens. 2012, 2013, one of those playoffs and the Super Bowl, they lost to the Baltimore Ravens. And to me, you better hope that the Kansas City Chiefs don't play like anything like the Baltimore Ravens, because if they do, that's the only way I can see San Francisco even lose a Super Bowl. They're the favorites. They're at home. Well, I won't mean home, but they have the advantage, and all this team has to do is play decisive. They might have to change up the way they play in the Super Bowl, because that other team has watched a lot of film, and this is going to determine if the 49ers can do the impossible. Can you win a championship in 2020? Can you repeat that success in 2021, 2022? That's what's going to be. The expectations are going to just go up for the 49ers because they're the favorites to win the Super Bowl. Kansas City Chiefs, they're the underdogs. They're expected to lose. And somebody might say, what if Kansas City Chiefs is the one's favorite to win? Then, in that case, they ain't got nothing to worry about. So, I see this football game end with either a touchdown or a field goal. Why? Because I don't see a blowout. I can't picture a blowout on the Super Bowl. They have happened in the past. Games that did not live up to the hype. And I am going to give me a Super Bowl t-shirt when I'm not actually working. Why? Because these are two teams we never seen face before. So it's new. A lot of people are tired of seeing the Patriots. A lot of people are sick of seeing Pittsburgh Steelers. And people wanted to see the Rams repeat, and it didn't happen. But you have two teams that haven't been there in a while. Both teams have not been there for quite a while. And we're going to see who is going to emerge as the new Super Bowl champions. So the score, because I know you're wondering, hurry up and get to the score already. I'm gonna say it's gonna be a close score. I don't think it's gonna be a blowout. I'm gonna probably go with 30 to 31. And I'm gonna tell you why I'm gonna go with 30 to 31. Because I could see that if 49ers win, they might win by 1 point, they might lose by 1 point. Same rule goes for Kansas City Chiefs. It might be they win by one, they lose by one. Now someone might say, what if it ain't by 1 point? What if it's by two? So then that means I'm gonna put an option down. I'm gonna give you a second score. If it ain't 30-31, then it might be 30-32. And the winner of that championship, I'm probably going to lean towards San Francisco 49ers because I just have a feeling that 49ers are going to prove once again why they're back. Kansas City Chiefs could win the championship. So to be on the safe side, I'm going to say it's 50-50. Anyone could win the Super Bowl. Let me just straight out say anyone could win the Super Bowl. That's how you should look at this and how you should approach it.